Welcome to the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Matthew Connor here, host of the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature successful business leaders, top law firms, green energy companies, and more. Today, we are joined by the author of Who is Max Lewis? Max Lewis, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Matthew. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being on. Yep, my pleasure. Before we get too far in, a quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. Do you know if a hacker's in your system? Most people and most companies don't until it's too late and a hacker's already done damage. A hacker's job is to bypass your security, so companies need a way of knowing when someone's gotten past their security. That's where CyberLink's intrusion detection comes in. With our 24/7 security operations center, we monitor your computers, networks, and cloud accounts using a combination of AI and highly skilled cybersecurity technicians to detect any sign of attack or intrusion. So if a bad guy gets past your security, we'll know right away and be able to kick them out. Find out more at cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. And now back to our show. Max, can't thank you enough for coming on. I just finished reading your book before we got on here. Who is Max Lewis? Out on Amazon and pretty much anywhere you can find books. Fantastic read. Really loved it. And I really loved how you kind of tell the real story. Oh, Jesus, it fucking froze. Okay.
Right. There you go.
That is not ideal. All right. So now I got to okay. I'm going to just start back with the welcome to the show. So,
okay.
All right, Max, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. I just finished reading your book, Who is Max Lewis, just before we got on here. Absolutely loved it. You can find it anywhere you can find books, Amazon, you name it. I think the thing that I really liked was how you really tell the story of your entrepreneurial career, if you will, from the beginning, where humble beginnings as an 8-year-old all the way to successful entrepreneur. Can you tell me though, what was your kind of inspiration for the book?
Well, believe it or not, I never had a goal to write a book. And after I sold my business, a lot of friends and family who knew my story really encouraged me to write a book. They're like, hey man, that story's crazy. You should write a book. And I kept hearing that over and over. And I always kind of like considered it. And I think even wrote down one day, like, write a book. Maybe I should do that. But I never took it too seriously until COVID happened. When COVID happened and I had nothing to do, I said, let me experiment. And next thing you know, 8 months later, I had a rough draft, and another maybe year after that, I had a finished book.
Well, I think it was time well spent.
Thank you.
Of course. So let me ask you, you start off the book telling the story about when you were 8 and I think it was 8, and your dad kind of introduces you to the concept of money. I thought it was a great story, and I'd love if you could share that story with the audience.
Sure. So basically, I had asked for a bicycle. I wanted, things, which I think every little boy or girl wants, toys and things like that. And at that moment, my father took the opportunity, because I guess he saw that, I was of age enough that I could comprehend what he was going to teach me, to explain to me what money was. And, in a very simple way, he told me you use it to buy things like the bike you want and other things, and then he took it a step further and he showed me, well, let me give you a lesson of how to make it. Right. So we had a mango tree in the backyard, and he tells me, let's go get some mangoes and pick out, the good ones from the bad ones. And then we're going to go sell those mangoes to the neighbors in the neighborhood. And not just the lesson didn't end there. After that, then he teaches me, okay, now we're going to save it. Right. We're going to save it. And we kind of turned it into a game where I had to fill this cookie tin with as much money as I possibly could. And at that age, I wanted singles, because singles, had a more visual appeal, looked like a lot more money. $100 in singles looks like a fortune compared to just a $100 bill, right?
Sure.
So that's where it started, man. And that lesson really took hold. And I think that was the foundation, that was the seed. And later on in life, I started selling candy, and ultimately I stacked all that experience, even as a young boy and teenager, to become, foundational for starting a business. I had awareness. I was ahead of the curve just because I already knew how customers worked, what, essentially what COD is. And, there's a lot of cool lessons that, as simple as they are, buying and selling mangoes, that's how business works. Buy low, sell high, sell a quality product, keep your customers happy. There's just a really great lesson, and it was ingrained in me as a child. So by the time I said, okay, I'm going to start this business, I had all this, basically experience in business already.
Yeah, I think every parent who reads this is like, damn, I should have done that,
Yeah,
or
I
hope
I
it's
get a
not
lot
too
of
late. If you've got little
yeah.
kids, it's like, that is absolutely perfect. Such a great idea, for your dad to go about it in that way. I was like, that's just genius. That's like, I loved it. So you made your fortune, if you will, in the propane business, right? Um,
Yep.
can you, for those who haven't read your book yet, which I highly recommend to everyone, can you kind of give us the overview? Because there's a bunch of things I want to dive into in that, but can you give us the overview? How did it start, and how did you get, to where you ultimately sold it for a sizable chunk of change?
So from beginning of inception of the business?
Yeah.
Okay. So inception of the business, I was working at a car wash, and I was really getting my ass kicked, honestly. My father had this little propane station where he'd refill propane tanks for people, and he also had a one service truck and one fuel truck. These vehicles were actually given to him, and he started a little business with these free trucks that he got, and he offered me to work on Saturdays and fill propane tanks for his customers that were walking in. Again, extremely small operation. He bought the land that he was operating on. He bought it for 60 grand, and his equipment he got free. So, really, really, I don't know how I would put it, but he didn't have a lot of money. Let's just put it that. So there's a guy who keeps coming in the shop every Saturday wanting delivered barbecue tanks. And at that time, it was almost comical because, there was no Uber, there's no DoorDash, there's none of these concepts existed. And I laughed at him. I laughed at him like, no one's going to deliver a barbecue tank. We're refilling them for like $9, and there's no margin. And he's like, well, how about if I do 10? And I say no. And then I offered to do it if I could charge him more money, which was essentially working in a delivery charge. And long story short, we settle on a price, and I do a delivery. It was brutal. The delivery was brutal. It took me a while, but afterwards, I come back and I say, Dad, I bought some gas from you, and I was able to work out a delivery charge for myself, delivery fee. Here's your money. And he tells me, keep all the money. And that immediately didn't sit well with me. I said, I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? I'm not going to take free propane. And he's like, well, we talked back and forth. He says, look, I'm going to give you commercial pricing like I do with my other commercial accounts. This is a really good idea that you had. I'm proud of you. So kudos to you. So I pay him his commercial price, which I felt good about. And I made like, $100. And I said, wow, I just made $100, and I'm getting paid like $75 a day working here. I made $100 an hour instead of 8 hours of labor, right? So the light bulb went off.
Yep.
And then I couldn't stop thinking about, man, there's got to be other people who need the service. There's got to be more people like Jose, right? And he worked at a hotel, by the way, in Miami Beach. And the wheels turning. I didn't do anything about it. Eventually, my girlfriend motivates me. Hey, you know what? Why don't you go make a business card? You've been talking about this idea forever. Make a business card. And I said, okay, make a business card. About 3 months later, okay, it was a little slow. It was actually very slow. Not a lot of people wanted the service, but then I found my ideal customer, which were restaurants that used propane for space heating, for outdoor space heating. It was like winning the lottery. I went from making a couple bucks every week to making $3,000 almost every single day at the time, seasonally. And then I just kept evolving. Every time I saw an opportunity to grow, I grew. I grew that business I made a couple $100,000 doing that quickly. Then I started putting those cages at the gas stations. I don't know if you've ever gone and swapped out a
Yep.
cage at
Mm-hmm.
hardware or any supermarket. And then I started doing forklift gas, and some other things happened with my brother, which you've read already in the book. Had some challenges, but at the end of my journey in propane, anyhow, I grew the business in 15 years from zero, one customer, to the largest independent operation in the state of Florida. And then I sold it to AmeriGas, which is the biggest company in the country for propane, for $37 million. And of course, in the book, I detail everything. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, that's a great story. And I do love how you actually detail out everything, because so many, times you read a story and they skip over the details. You're like, oh, okay, I guess you just go basically from idea, hard work, and then selling your business for, a nice multiple, and yay, that all works out. And one of the things I love is I think you often hear, I think I often use the analogy of a lot of entrepreneurs. They might be really good at making cookies, and so they make cookies, but there's so much more to it. There's so much more to running a successful business than just the product or service. There's a lot to it. And I love how you go through that in the book. And at one point it was Keith Cunningham. You talk about going to his, what is it, 4-day MBA program.
That's correct.
And I think one of my favorite parts was where and it may have just been rather brief, but I thought it was so fitting. And I think it's going to resonate with just about every entrepreneur ever, or at least a large portion of them, where you're like, we got to start doing everything by the book, paying all the taxes, doing all the things. And I think that's just so funny, because you never hear somebody talking about that. It's like the unspoken, hush hush. We're not talking about this. The camera is killing me. But you never hear people talking about it. And I love that you dove into that in your book there. So
thank you.
Get this camera working again here. I don't know why why it's messing with me today.
It's okay. Yeah, I think that's important to be real, man. And it's unfortunate a lot of people leave that part of their journey out, because that's the important part. That's where we can really learn. Telling you I had an idea and then I became rich, that doesn't help anyone. And the purpose of, at least for me anyway, of writing my book and my story is to help people. That's the objective. So that's why I detailed it in that manner. Like, I want you to see and know everything that happened to me, how I handled it, how I learned from it, how I grew from it, and then applied it. And then we see the result, right?
I really love that. So you had challenges with your brother, right? And I think that's really important. I mean, family business is tough, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't mind me asking, kind of diving into that, are there lessons learned that you would kind of share with people in retrospect? Now, if you could do it over again, what would you do differently? Would you do anything differently? Is there any advice you'd give to people about when it comes to working with family?
Well, there's definitely advice. I think one of the main mistakes that people make is they have a business, or they start a business, and they immediately, when they need help or they're seeking a partner, they look for whoever's closest to them, who's available and who's around, right? It's my best friend, it's my cousin, it's my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad. And that's a mistake, because you're not evaluating the person based on their qualifications or their skill level, right? Yeah. So if I was the coach of the New York Yankees and I was looking for a first baseman, I wouldn't call my cousin, right? I'd call someone with a lifetime of baseball experience, hopefully already in the MLB, someone who's available, someone whose salary I can afford. These are all really important factors of putting a first baseman on the Yankees. But when people start their small businesses, they're like, hey, what are you doing Saturday? I'm not doing it. Hey, you want to be my partner? It's like mind-blowing to me. I made the same mistake, right? It's mind-blowing to me now because I learned, right? Because I learned better. But that's very important piece of advice. I think when you're starting something, when you're trying to do something, who do you need exactly? What does this person look like on paper, right? Like we kind of just detailed it. First baseman, knows baseball, has experience in baseball. He's available. We can sign him, blah, 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 blah. Write out that person. And then when you're looking, I mean, it could be your brother, right? It could be.
Might be.
But does he fit and meet all of these things that you need? at least for the most part. Because if they don't, okay, you know what? Better idea not to get in with my brother or my sister or my friends,
Yeah.
and find that right person. Now, as far as the lessons that I've learned, but by the way, do you still get audio when the computer glitches?
I do.
Okay,
It just
we
might
could just, we'll
me.
just deal with it. Let your
Yeah,
audience have fun with it. Listen, it just
that's life.
keeps
We
them,
roll with the punches. Yep.
keep them entertained. We keep
That's
pushing
right.
forward. So, as far as would I change anything, it's tough to answer that, because why would you change something if it led you to this moment, right? If I didn't go through some of the hardships, I wouldn't have been able to write a book that could help a countless number of people, right?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
maybe if I wouldn't have gone what I went through, I also wouldn't have became the guy who could have sold his company for $37 million and write a book, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I actually talked about this on a podcast the other day. This very popular guy, his name is Hamza Ahmed, and he's got a very, very large following, like millions of people. And he asked me a similar question. And I said, the better way to look back at those experiences is like with effective blaming, right? So I can blame, like, say, for example, my brother that I fought with, I could blame him for all the bad things that happened, that the pain he caused me and all those things. But you also have to blame him for the success that
Yeah.
I was able to achieve, because him putting me in that particular position, it's like pressure on a diamond, right? Pressure creates diamonds. Now I became this diamond and I'm successful. But if he doesn't apply the pressure, there's no diamond, right? So
100%.
I choose to, when I look back on those experiences, okay, what did this give me? What did it teach me? What did I learn? How did I benefit from this situation? No matter what it is, there's, a positive spin on whatever the negative thing is. I have one of my very, very close friends, which is also an author. Her daughter died at a young age, and it's an absolute tragedy and unfortunate, and it sucks. And nobody wants that.
Right.
But you want to know something? She wrote a book. She's helping thousands and thousands of people who have experienced the same thing. So this is part of her purpose. Her journey is to help all these people. So I mean, and you're talking about me. It can't get much worse than a situation like that.
Not much.
Right. But then here we are, and we say, you know what? The good thing is, maybe this is the plan that God had for me, and look at all these people that I'm helping. So I just encourage people to just think of it that way. We all have struggles, challenges, problems, things that are unfortunate. Just know that something positive is going to come from it if it hasn't already, and just look forward and focus on that.
Well, I think that is such an important distinction in success. I think if you look at every successful person you've ever met or heard of, I don't think it's necessarily about the tactics, right? Or even the strategy. There are a lot of tactics you can apply. There are a lot of strategies you can take. But if your mindset, if you do not have a successful mindset, one that encompasses things like that, where no matter what adversity comes, that there is good pain and bad pain. And when you've got that good pain, you're going to get stronger and better from it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being able to see it in that light and know that no matter what happens, I'm on a journey to accomplish something. I might not have seen what's going to happen, but I know that I'm headed in the right direction. I have faith that this will all work out for the best. And when you lack that faith and that confidence in that, well, forget about it. I mean, first time you start driving, if your goal is to drive from here to Los Angeles, and the first time you get off the beaten path because, there was a detour, you're like, crap. Now you're just stuck in Alabama somewhere. It's like, what? Okay. That's really where you want to live. I mean, no offense to Alabama. That's totally fine. Alabama's great. Not saying that. I'm just saying, And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that comes across in your book. And so I'm kind of curious from your perspective, that kind of success mindset, was it something because your dad, kind of was that way? You kind of grew up with this faith, you kind of grew up in this entrepreneurial household where that was kind of the belief, or was it something that you kind of cultivated on, as well, or maybe, exclusively, as you continued your journey? How'd that work for you?
I think it's a little bit of both, probably more of B than A. It's like you get like this, like we talked about earlier, like that seed planted, like that little bit of foundation, but it really depends on the person. I know a lot of rich, famous people that their kids are not doing shit, frankly, and they have no
Yeah.
drive and want to do anything. So it doesn't, the environment greatly helps, but the individual is also extremely important. And I think I just continued to like mold myself and like, no, you know what? I'm going to push through. I'm going to make something happen. I'm going to look at this in a positive way, or I'm not going to take no for an answer, even at times, which is not easy. I'll be the first to tell you, when you're facing that brick wall and you're like, well, shit, this is the end of the road. It's really difficult to say, I'm going to make it through here. But that's when you got to start getting creative. You say, okay, what can I do? Brick wall. Well, I could climb over it. I could throw a rope over it. I could dig a hole under it. I can hire a helicopter. I could get a chipping hammer and go through it. You just have to start. Let's start deploying every strategy we can come up with. Let's just not stop here at the brick wall and see what happens. And list other intelligent, capable people that could help you with solving problem. Like, hey, well, how do we get past the brick wall? That's another huge lesson that I think I detail in the book. It's like, don't just ask anyone for advice. Ask the quality source. Ask the guy who's been there, the girl who's been there. Hey, what would you do in this situation? If you had a brick wall in front of you, how would you get past it? Right? And that really helps a lot, because if you ask, I say it in the book, don't ask the janitor for expert advice on banking, and don't ask the banker for expert advice on mopping a floor, right? You got them reversed. You ask a janitor about banking, and he might say, oh, banking's, I don't understand that. It's stupid. You don't want to do anything with that. And the same thing with a banker. Banker might be like, mop a floor. I'd never mop a floor. I'm a banker. I wouldn't waste my time. But maybe you need advice on mopping a floor. And if you ask a guy who's been mopping a floor for 20 years, you're going to learn something about mopping a floor. I guarantee you, right?
That's right. I
so
love that.
Ask the quality source, the right person. That's, one of my things. It's just huge. You could save so much time and accomplish so much when you get the right people involved on your team.
Well, I think that's so wise, because all too often, kind of going back to that proximity, if you will, like, oh, you hire your cousin instead of the actual good qualified first baseman, right? And that proximity in terms of advice, people often make that same mistake, and they ask friends and family about expert advice on a situation. They're not experts. They just happen to be around you. You happen to be, your friend or your family member. Why are you going to them? Is that the life you want? It might be, but I think, yours is even more pointed. Get the expert advice from the right expert. And that's just great advice that would save so many people so much time.
Thank you. And it's not just for expert advice. So I don't know if you remember, but in my book, when I had my idea for my company, I asked 3 people, hey, I want to do this idea. What do you think? Will you be my partner? I knew nothing. All I knew was, I want to do something. I want someone's help. So I asked my cousin, my best friend, and my brother. All 3 of them told me no. And essentially 2 of them told me it was a stupid idea.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward a couple months later, I'm making $3,000 a day. Is it stupid now? No. Now, I could have taken their advice and said, yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah.
Right? And then who would I be?
That's right.
I said, you know what? I care about this. I think it's something that it's in me. I feel the desire to pursue this. So I'm going to do it anyway. And in that case, I asked 3 people. All 3 of them gave me horrible advice. And I still said, no, I'm going to do it anyway. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And that's another thing that I encourage people, like, hey, dude, if there's something that's always on your mind, if there's something that you just cannot let go, just see where it takes you. You don't know what it could do for you. Just explore. Doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. It matters what you think and what you feel, what you want to do. Do what you want to do. Do what you want to do.
I love that. Yeah, because I think all too often people get discouraged by that. And I think, interestingly, on the flip side, you get people who have this confidence that is not founded in reality in any way, shape, or form. Like you see the kind of America's Got Talent people who get up there and they're just a horrendous singer, but they think that they are really great. And, right. Yeah. And it's like, there's a balance between, you got to have some substance to it. You've got to have, it's your faith in yourself has to be grounded in some sort of reality. Like, oh, I'm willing to put in the hard work and I think this is it. I think it's the seeing reality for itself. You gotta, like, you can't fudge the numbers. Like the numbers that you're getting, that's the numbers you're getting. You can lie to yourself. It's not going to help you improve your business. And you
Yeah.
can lie about how good you are at something. It's not going to help you be better at it. It's going to make you feel good and you're going to perform worse. And so, yeah, how do you deal with that? And what's your advice there, people?
So here, I want to say something. So it's important to mention this though. We've all seen these horrendous singers on American Idol, and they're horrible and they suck. Sorry, guys, but it's the truth. A lot of them are not that good. Some of them are amazing. Some of them are not that good.
Yes.
But it's important to know that a lot of these people who are really oblivious to the fact that how poor of a singer they are. Think about this. How many hundreds of thousands or maybe even millions of people are sitting on the couch could sing better than that person, but that guy's on fucking TV. Why? Because he believed in himself enough, even if he's delusional, or that person, women, man, whatever. Even if that person is delusional, they said, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And they're on TV, and you, who has a better voice, is watching them. So it's important to detail that,
Love
because,
that.
right? Right.
Yep.
So that's important to know, just the belief in yourself and that drive can take you a very long way.
I love that. That's fantastic. Well, I tell you what, I know we're running a little short on time, and we've got to, you know what? Can you share with people the second chapter of the book, if you will, or I don't know if there's going to be another book, but for those who finish the book, I know I was curious myself, what is next? So as we kind of wrap up here, I'd like to explore what happened after the book. Where are we there?
So a lot happened. A whole heck of a lot happened. But essentially, I have been living a very quality life, doing a lot of whatever I want to do. Right now, my new thing is restaurants. I have currently, I think I have 14 restaurants and having a lot of fun with that. I own a bunch of real estate. I obviously wrote a book, which took the better part of 2 years. It took about 8 months to write it, and then a lot of months for the audiobook and cleaning it up and stuff like that, which every time I reread it, I was like, oh, I need to make an edit here. So it was fun, but it was a lot of work for someone like myself, which is, I'm like a perfectionist, and I wanted to do it myself. So that was hard. Dude, like I said, I've been doing a lot of fishing. I've been doing a lot of vacation traveling. I always stay busy. I coach people. I try to help as many people as I possibly can. And a lot of people have asked me to write a second book, like what happened after. There was a lot of things that happened after. I will say this, my brother and I are on the best terms we've ever been. Our relationship is the best it's ever been. So that's, positive, right? But yeah, there's some stuff. They asked me to write a children's book too.
Nice.
Isn't that funny?
You know what? I can see it based off of that. And I think that would be great, honestly.
Yeah.
I think parents would appreciate that, especially given that, kind of, yep, totally agree. I can see it.
I consider it. I might when I take the foot off the gas on the restaurants a little bit, I'll probably do that. It's a lot easier to write a 10-page book than a 416-page book.
Right. Well, quick plug for the restaurants. Is it one chain? Is it multiple restaurants? What are we looking at here?
2 chains. One is Diced in Miami, and the other one is Sushi Saki, which is they're scaling up Florida now. There's geez Louise. There's 30 something open and like 19 under construction. One of my really, really good friends is my partner in that. So yeah, I'm just doing that. Being
Awesome.
entertained. It's fun.
That's fantastic. Love it. Well,
I will tell you
congratulations.
one quick thing. Hold on, because I don't want to give away too much information in case I do write a second book. But one of the guys that I gave $1 million to at closing, I gave money to my entire staff. One of the guys I gave $1 million to, he betrayed me and tried to take business from the people that I sold the business to. No. And that was a major, like the most dramatic, ridiculous thing ever. And I learned a lesson. People were like, oh, I bet you'll never give money away like that again. I said, you're absolutely wrong. I absolutely will, because I'm not going to change who I am because someone did something ugly.
That's right.
Now, will I change how I do it? Yeah. Hand the guy $1 million at the closing. Maybe we spread it out over 12 months and, give him that month. But that is one thing that was, was very challenging. But, like I said, everything happens for a reason. And I think it all worked out for me in the end.
That's fantastic. Well, I love it. Can't thank you enough for coming on the show. It was such an honor having you on. Love the book. But before we go, can you tell everybody where they can get a copy of your book? And let me also say, for those who do get a copy, myself included, I think writing a review online about the book is always great. So if you would, please tell us where we can find it.
I would greatly appreciate the reviews. I wish more people would leave reviews. I get a lot of messages about people loving the book, and I'm like, please put that message on Amazon. That's where I ask everybody to leave a review, please. The books are on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, Books and Books. I mean, there's a bunch of retailers, even some that I don't know, and I'm like, how the hell do these people republish my book? But it's pretty much everywhere. Amazon's honestly the easiest. You get it in 2 days, and it's like $15. It's a no-brainer.
Yep.
And then it also just came out in Spanish 2 days ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Book in Spanish, and there is an audible version as well. So
fantastic. Love it. Well, Max, again, thank you for coming on, and for everybody, go grab the book. It's well worth it. Fantastic read. And I look forward to the sequel.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. It was really fun.
Thanks for listening to the Cyber Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.